Hello everyone and welcome to another Pax Dei video. My name's Brian if you happen to be new to the channel, and a special thank you to the 408 of you guys who've hit that subscribe button and are taking a chance on the content here. It does really mean a lot to me, so I hope you guys continue to enjoy these videos. This is going to be kind of a discussion video, but we do actually have some news from the developers. They spent some time addressing people's concerns, but I thought it would be really a good way to talk about those concerns by actually expressing what you guys had to say about it in the last video. So I've got a couple of comments that I'm going to highlight, we're going to discuss, and then I'm going to share with you guys what the developers themselves had to say, and you can always weigh in and let me know your thoughts, because this is going to be an important part of the discussion, especially as it relates to Pax Dei and the state of the MMO RPG all together. So hello everyone and welcome in. Let's get to the comments, and I'm very curious about what you guys think, and if you guys feel like these videos earn it, like, sub, and share. That's a great way of supporting the content here, and I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday coming up. I'm sure we're gonna have lots to talk about in 2024, but let's start with War Ward. Says, can't understand how anyone can be positive about the WoW token thing, but thanks for the summary. And we'll talk a little bit more about why I'm actually excited about it, because not every token is created equally. And we'll explore that thought here in a second. User says, I like to purchase a release and pay for the expansion or for new content style of monetization. As far as player housing exists in the world when no player is longer playing, easy fix by having in-game currency to pay for the weekly upkeep. If non-paid, the house and the contents go poof. I like how New World handles the housing, where if you don't pay your upkeep, you don't get the benefits of having a house, like perks and stuff like that. So you're incentivized to pay your upkeep fee so you can continue to have those buffs. And I personally like that. I'm actually all for if the upkeep fee was in-game currency, to have that constant demand for it, where you see lots of inflation in long-running MMOs, like let's say Final Fantasy 14, for example. Well, there's no, like, the real cost in 14 is the same system that they're saying here. If you don't subscribe, you're going to lose your house, and housing is so rare and so hard to come by in that game that people just say subscribed while taking years off of the game so that they don't end up losing the house. So I think that's something where having an in-game aspect continues to add value to that currency. There's a reason to have it. You want to have it. Yeah, I think that's just how these kind of games work, especially in the sandbox kind of world. But Stylophobic says, so they want a box cost, a sub fee, MTX, and tokens. How have MMO developers learned nothing over the last 10 to 15 years? LOL. Tokens make the game pay to win because you can literally just buy gold legitimately instead of having to do it from dodgy online traders. Sounds like they just want to milk it for every cent that they can. And I'll come back to these because, like, obviously people are worried about it, and I don't want to disrespect that worry because how they feel is how they feel. But there's another side of the coin, and as a software developer, like, I'm going to talk to you guys about that as well. I think there's an important aspect that a lot of people just never really truly consider when it's all said and done. Now, Blizzablackco says, I played EVE Online for many years. The subscription and Plex model has worked well for that game, and it's almost 20 years old now and still going. The Plex allowed players who enjoyed the farming production loops to play without having to take out their real-life wallets. Other players like me were paying the subscription for them. We were paying for their time so we could spend our time doing what we enjoyed more, i.e. PvP. I had a blast in EVE, paid my sub, brought and sold Plex, and spent the ISK gold buying a bunch of cheap ships and roaming around looking for fights. Win-win. As for gold spammers, there's going to get them in the way, and I'd rather developers took my money than for the gold. Yeah, so there will be gold selling, whether it's through a token system or not. Here's the thing. I think a lot of people, when they see especially WoW token, they think World of Warcraft, which is a theme park style model game. And perhaps I could get on board with the token and the theme park being a bad idea because of the verticality of the game. Sandbox is more horizontal. There's way more things to do. There's downtime. There's built-in boredom. And that's actually, I think, a really healthy thing for the human mind personally. I know we're adverse to that. I talk to a lot of guys in my men's group that it's like you're uncomfortable in silence, right? Like you're watching a video right now, hopefully getting some level of entertainment out of it, but there's also an aspect that sometimes it's good just to kind of be quiet and step away, right? So that's what I mean by that. So I think that when you think about the WoW model, and that's where it's like when they actually reference the WoW token over the Plex, because I was aware of the Plex model, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a very interesting video. I'm very curious how you guys think, so I do appreciate y'all weighing in. Now let's take this into the sandbox, right? So you could, or I could, hire somebody to play the game for me. It's ridiculous. It feels ridiculous, right? But when that is a driven aspect of a player-driven economy, it's the same aspect, right? Like I could either go in, log in, go grind mats all week, and then play on the weekend, or if that's something that you can do, why not get rewarded for it? And if I go to work all week and come back and have, I've grinded all week, I just haven't been in game, like I can choose to take some of my real life money and hand it to you. And so that way, especially in terms of guilds, right, you can end up having a lot more players eligible to play this game. So like, and that's the real kind of thing here. Sandbox MMOs have really, really struggled as of late because that they really give you a lot of freedom, and sometimes when people step into these games, they're not looking for that. They're looking for that they're handheld in a clear, easy pathway to go from A to B to C to D. And that's where I'm excited for that. And so we've been debating, and them talking about having a subscription model makes sense. Now, when it goes into the housing thing, like that's going to be difficult. That's going to be a challenge personally, because like you build cities, you build guilds. It's going to, I think, cause a lot of frustration in the earlier rush of the game. When no matter what, when this game is hyped, you might be like, oh, I'm not interested in it at all. But as soon as marketing kicks in, as soon as all the updates have really kind of fleshed out and people are all checking it out, and you're seeing like content creators like Asmongold playing it and streaming it, the temptation will draw you back in. Let's just be real. And like, if you don't think it will, marketing, they spend so much money on marketing because of these reasons. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not so worried because they're open about this right now in the stage of alpha, so that way we can have this dialogue with them. So don't take what anything they said as a I'm out kind of moment, because that's the real loss. Anybody who's like, all right, that's it, I'm done with this game forever, like, that's unfortunate, because your feedback, I think, is very important, and your voice really does matter. And so I just want to continue to encourage you guys to send your feedback to the developers, because that's going to be something I think that will benefit the game in the long run. But I said we're going to talk about what the devs had to say specifically. So they talk about the Plex token. The Plex WoW token is a dividing topic, they say. It can brilliantly solve some issues, but we understand that some members of the community can voice concerns. With our combined experience with EVE and WoW, we have some strong insights about that building and such systems that you can guess breaking the game from beyond repair is not a part of our plans. Now, our priority when designing the system, it will be to ensure that it contributes to the player-driven economy in the game's long-term health. We want to test, iterate, and get the community feedback to ensure that it suits the majority of our players. And this is, I think, a key aspect. They're designing that at the root of the game. These other systems came in later for those games, and so this, I think, gives them a unique opportunity to make sure that it is really well engineered, so that the game doesn't become pay to win. So that for me, somebody who likes to farm and provide resources, maybe that level of effort ends up being such a beautiful thing that I can get my subscription paid for, which is great, because I'm very excited for that. And I want this game, and I want Sandbox MMOs to be able to launch and sustain a player base. We just really haven't seen that. We've seen continual, and then, but I've talked about that in other videos, so You can guys, if you want a topic on that specifically, let me know here. We'll go for that. Now, they talk about plots and freeing up lands. This is these next two things are my biggest and highest concern when it comes to monetization. They says we can't provide the exact time frame when it comes to plot decay and freeing up the land for other players, yet we still away from the full release of Pax Dei, and we want to use this time ahead to see how players engage with the game and hear from the community before we lock in the model. We understand that the constraints are linked to losing your plot, and we're considering different options to handle it to ensure that the gameplay experience is optimal for everyone. We cannot leave plots unattained or unattended for long periods of time. Note that your character would not be impacted, only your buildings and resources that are on your plot. Now, I think if you're able to snapshot buildings and actually, like, you know, you think about kind of 3D print and we're like, okay, I built this thing, let me save this as a set. I think that could help to go a long way, so that way you're not, you know, holding the bag. Like, if that does happen to you and, you know, like, oh, I spent, you know, thousands of hours designing this mansion. It's like, okay, or this castle. It's like, oh, cool, let me just copy paste and and print it out, you know, and then obviously have the resources returned to you so that you could easily do that. But anyway, we'll continue. They continue. Also, I think that the clan that you're a part of should have priority over the land that you're freeing up, so that they don't lose part of their village and keep something in your loving memory. And as for our other systems, we'll provide more details later at a point. This is something that I'm going to be watching like a hawk, because this is very interesting and concerning. Now, cosmetics. This is also another thing that it irks me, and I get it, but it's still, come on. When it comes to cosmetics, here's an example of how we may implement to ensure that the in-game economy remains 100% player-driven. We would propose variations of recipes that exist in-game with the same prerequisites to be unlocked, with the same stats and similar components, or even the same. We don't plan to sell out of theme items in the shop, and styles and themes will be the same as what we want to keep the immersion intact. The shop won't have high fantasy elven female non-armors, for example, or a flying Pegasus. Also, our priority is still in development with the game and its features. Cosmetics are an extra possibility and will always be fully optional. We're still a way away from the full release of Pax Dei, but we want to use this time ahead to see how players engage with the game and hear from the community before we lock in the model. We'll provide more details on the progress. I think cosmetics are the things that I think should be just about doing things in the game. And if it's player-driven cosmetics, where it's like, hey, I made this and, you know, you can look like that now, that's fine. But when it comes down to the selling of direct cosmetics with the subscription model, and it's really just the pairing of these different models, right? Subscription with a token, okay, I can get on board. Buy to play with a battle pass, got it. And cosmetic shop, sure. Like, but if you start just stacking all of it on top of each other, it does feel a little bit frustrating. And maybe I don't think it's predatory, because we're still in the early stages of the game's development. But I do appreciate, want to say, like, it's great that they're actually willing to have this conversation with us, and rather than go 2 years in and be like, oh, by the way, every form of monetization's in this game. Anyway, guys, I feel like my wife's giving me a call, so it's time to go get some coffee. And thanks so much for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. But until then, take care.